What is up, IRSD educators? Jeff here, and this is the final Tech Tip Tuesday on the In-Class Flip. This video is going to pull double duty, recap the series, and introduce the next topic, AI in the K-12 classroom. What you're about to listen to is a 12-minute, fully AI-generated summary of the In-Class Flip made using Google's NotebookLM and 2 documents. A 3-page summary I wrote about the chapters from Buitrago and Ramirez's In-Class Flip featured in this series, and our LF planning template. I uploaded them to NotebookLM, and in about 3 minutes it generated the audio deep dive you're about to listen to. Listen to the deep dive review and get ready for next week's introduction to AI in the K-12 classroom.
Flip things up a bit.
I'm game. What have we got?
This time we're diving deep into the in-class flip.
Oh, I like it. It's like that cool younger sibling of the flipped classroom model, right?
Exactly. And, a lot of educators are saying this one has serious potential.
Yeah, what's really exciting about it is how it takes active learning to a whole new level. Instead of just passively watching videos at home, students are grappling with the new material right there in the classroom.
Exactly. And we've got a ton of resources from, real educators who've made this work. And we're talking practical tips, not just theory.
Yeah, because let's be real. Trying to flip your entire teaching style can be a little daunting, to say the least.
For sure. So if you're ready to ditch those old school lectures, this is the place to be.
Absolutely. And these resources are packed with strategies to guide you through it.
One thing that really caught my eye, and maybe this is just me, was this idea of visualizing the chaos before you even start the flipping process.
Visualizing the chaos. That does sound a little counterintuitive, I have to admit.
Right.
But okay, I see where they're going with this. Think about it. When you're planning an in-class flip, you're basically creating a learning environment that's constantly moving. You've got students collaborating, engaging with the material, and it's all very hands-on, right?
Totally. And one expert actually compared it to setting up a science lab. You need all those stations ready to go with all the materials laid out. You've got to think about the seating arrangements, how the technology will be integrated, the flow of the whole thing.
Yeah, totally. It's about anticipating those little logistical things that can totally make or break the flow.
One educator even suggested, get this actually drawing out a map of your classroom. Like, where will the desks go? Where will the whiteboard be? Even down to where you'll put the trash cans.
Oh, wow. That's next level.
Right. It's all about being prepared.
I'm starting to see it now. When you're clear on the layout of the physical space, you're freed up to focus on the important stuff, actually teaching and guiding those students.
Absolutely. And speaking of guidance, the materials we looked at really hammered home the idea that a good in-class flip is built on a foundation of really, really meticulous lesson planning.
Yeah, one expert put it perfectly, and I'm paraphrasing here, but they basically said, plan for the concept, not the class period.
I love that. It's so simple, but it really gets to the core of what makes this different.
Yeah, would you say that you're essentially redesigning the entire learning experience?
Totally. And because of that, it requires a whole different kind of lesson plan. You're thinking about things like using different content delivery methods, videos, podcasts, maybe even throwing in some interactive games.
Oh, that's cool.
Right? And then you're planning activities that cover everything from the basics all the way up to, those higher order thinking skills, applying what they've learned in new situations, which is where Bloom's taxonomy comes in.
Oh, right, Bloom's taxonomy. For those who might not be familiar, can you give us a quick rundown?
Sure. It's basically a way to categorize the different levels of learning, from just remembering facts to being able to actually evaluate information.
Got it. So it's like a hierarchy of understanding. Exactly. And in an in-class flip, you want to make sure you've got activities that hit all those levels. So your lesson plan has to guide students through that while still being flexible enough to accommodate the different paces.
Because not everyone learns at the same speed, right? Some students might fly through it, while others might need a bit more time and support.
Exactly. It's a real shift from the old deliver the content, then assess model. With an in-class flip, you're guiding and supporting as they work through the material, in real time.
So then that brings us to another point that came up a lot, embracing the controlled chaos.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. It sounds a little contradictory, doesn't it? Controlled chaos. It does. A little bit, right? But when we really think about how we learn best, it's not always in perfect silence, is it? Sometimes a little movement, some collaboration, even a bit of noise, it can actually be a sign of, deep engagement.
So maybe discipline takes on a different meaning in this context.
Exactly. Less about keeping everybody perfectly quiet and still, and more about, really encouraging individual responsibility and that productive kind of engagement.
I like that.
It's kind of like, imagine a well-choreographed dance, right? There's a lot going on, but it all flows together. That's controlled chaos.
Okay, I love that analogy. So we've got the controlled chaos happening, but of course we still want to support all learners in this environment. What did our experts have to say about that, especially for students who might learn at a different pace?
Yeah, they were really clear about the tiered activities are super important. Not everybody's going to move at the same speed, right? And that's fine.
Of course.
The goal is to make sure those who are ready for more are challenged, while those who need more time or support are, getting what they need.
Meeting students where they are.
Exactly.
Now, one strategy I thought was super clever was a fast finishers station. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so picture this. You've got this dedicated station with really engaging higher-level tasks specifically designed for those students who blaze through the main material.
Yeah.
Keeps them from getting bored or, tuning out. And at the same time, it makes sure those who need more time aren't feeling rushed.
It's a win-win. Not only are you addressing different learning paces, but you're also creating a classroom culture that really respects those differences.
Totally. And that actually highlights something that came up again and again in these resources in class flipping. It's not just about delivering the content differently. It's about creating a learning environment where everyone feels supported, challenged, and valued.
A space where they can thrive. Okay, so we've got the planning down, embracing that little bit of chaos and making sure we support all learners. But let's be real, not every lesson is going to be a good fit for the in-class flip. How do we decide which ones are, ripe for the flipping?
Strategy, my friend. You don't have to flip everything.
Music to my ears?
The experts actually suggest you start slow, be strategic about it, focus on the really complex stuff, the concepts that students traditionally struggle with.
Right, because those are the areas where that more hands-on approach can really make a difference.
Exactly. So instead of spending hours planning some elaborate in-class flip for something they already get, you're focusing that energy on the areas where it's really going to have the most impact.
Working smarter, not harder, as they say. Okay, so we've picked our lesson, we've embraced the chaos, prepped those tiered activities feeling good. Now, what's the most important thing to make sure this in-class flip goes smoothly?
Instructions, instructions, instructions. And I cannot stress this enough. Crystal clear instructions. We can't just hand them a bunch of stuff and expect them to magically know what to do, right?
Especially with this different approach. They're used to something else entirely.
Right. This is new. It's probably disorienting for some of them, so we got to be extra thoughtful about how we explain things. The experts talked a lot about using clear language, avoiding jargon, incorporating visuals whenever possible.
Because a confused student is not an engaged student.
Exactly. Think models, diagrams, flowcharts, anything that makes those instructions pop and eliminates confusion. Like if you're doing fractions, having a pizza there that's visually cut into slices is going to be a lot clearer than just talking about it,
Right. Sometimes the simplest things are the most effective. I also like that they talked about posting instructions in different spots around the room, especially in a station-based setup. That way you don't have a traffic jam of students trying to read from the same place.
It's so smart. It keeps things flowing and lets those students work more independently. And again, visuals are your best friend here. Demonstrating a process, have a model, explaining a concept, give them a diagram. Keep it super simple.
KISS, I love it. Okay, we've talked about visualizing the classroom, detailed planning, the chaos, supporting learners, starting small, those crystal clear instructions. But even with all that, there's always room to grow, right? How do we make sure our in-class flips are getting better over time?
That's where feedback comes in. And not just any feedback from the real experts, the students.
Right, like they say, feedback is a gift. But you're right, who better to tell us what's working than the students who are actually, living it?
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be anything complicated either. We saw some suggestions for using exit slips, those quick little forms.
Yeah, those are easy.
Right. Or even just having a quick check-in at the end of an activity. Like, hey, what's working for you? Anything you'd change. Simple stuff, but you get some great insights.
It's all about making sure those students feel comfortable sharing their honest thoughts.
Totally. And, sometimes the best feedback comes just from observing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like, are the students excited about the activity? Are they confused? Are they helping each other out?
It's like you're a learning detective.
I like that. You're gathering all those clues to figure out what's really clicking and what needs some work. But student feedback is only part of the equation, right? Our experts also highlighted another really important resource, our colleagues.
Oh, right, collaboration. That makes sense, especially when you're trying something new like this in-class flip.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Bouncing ideas off each other, taking a peek into each other's classrooms, sharing what worked and what didn't, it all helps make things better for everyone.
We're all on this together, right? Two heads are better than one. Or, in our case, maybe it's more like two teaching minds are better than one.
Love it. And it's so true. That collaboration, it's not just about making our own teaching better. It's about building a stronger school culture overall.
For sure, we all learn and grow together. Okay, so we've planned everything out. We've embraced the chaos. We've got our feedback system ready to go. We are in class flipping rock stars. But then the day arrives and technology decides to take a little break.
Yeah.
The projector gives out, the internet disappears, those headphones we talked about, poof, gone. What do we do?
Backup plan. That's where a good backup plan comes in. It's not just a good idea, it's essential.
It's like that emergency chocolate bar you keep hidden away, right?
Exactly. Yeah, hope you never need it, but you're sure glad you have it when you do. And in this case, one of the simplest things you can do is have a stash of spare headphones on hand. Technology can be a little fickle, right?
Yeah, you're telling me. It's like they know when we're relying on them and they decide to cause trouble. I actually heard this story about a teacher who was all ready to launch into this awesome in-class flip activity. And of course, half the headphones decided to die. But she was prepared. She had a whole bag of those headphones they give you on airplanes.
Now that's thinking ahead.
Yeah,
And it just goes to show a little preparation goes a long way.
absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the in-class flip, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from this?
For me, it comes down to this. The in-class flip, it's a journey. It's not about getting it perfect right away. It's about constantly reflecting, making adjustments, and figuring out what works best for you and your students.
Being open to trying new things, being okay with a little chaos, and remembering the power of collaboration and feedback.
Couldn't have said it better.
Well, on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. To all you educators out there, be bold, be prepared, and most importantly, have fun.